Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our first Breakfast Club after the summer. We're really glad to have everybody back. Today, we're going to be focusing on the healing power of compliments. Just a quick ground rules. Please use the chat box for comments and questions pertinent to our topic. I'd also like to invite everybody to please add your name, your title, and your company in the chat as we get this conversation going. And please also introduce yourself again when you do come off mute today. We'll have a live conversation. We'd love to know your name and where you're working, so we can continue to have those connections. We'll have you mute for now, but we will open. We won't have a breakout session today. We're going to stay in the main room, so we'll have some open conversations. And then we'd always like to encourage you to please complete the quick poll following the program. You will be receiving a bonus resource for doing that today regarding this topic and some tips and tricks on how to do some good compliments. So I'm going to throw that over to John to get the conversation started. Before I do that, I do want to welcome everybody who we haven't seen in a while. I know it's been several months and we have some new faces today. Christian, I don't remember if I've seen you at a breakfast club, and if I have, welcome back. It's really nice to see you. Colette, I haven't seen you in a while either, and Kevin. So Marie, this is your first breakfast club event, not in person, so we're really excited there, and Connor as well, our intern. So thanks everybody for joining. I'm looking forward to getting to know you a little bit more today in our chat. So with John, I'll give it over to you.
Thanks, Danielle. I appreciate it. And thank you, everybody, for being here this morning. I'm John Katz. I'm in Boston and excited to be here. This is the first one we've done in a few months. And we would like to just do a kind of a free-flowing discussion here just on this topic and have everybody contribute. And just as a quick reminder, please reintroduce yourself if you're going to speak. And just say your name and maybe what you do, and that would be great. And please remember to take the live polls as well. So the first question to get us kicked off and started is, can you remember the last time you gave someone a compliment, and how did it feel, and how did they react? So if somebody would like to go first and describe your experience, that'd be great.
I can jump in, John, if you'd like me to. Hi, guys. I'm MacLeod. I'm in Boston. I'm a financial advisor, portfolio advisor at Merrill Lynch. And glad to see you all. And thanks for the welcome. I know it's been a while since I've been to a breakfast club. And it's nice kind of be up early and see you all again. So I'm in a business where it's good to build rapport, and by doing it's a good way to do that is by giving compliments out. But it's all about how you give them out and be genuine about it. So whenever I give them out, like, it makes me feel good. It's nice because I know, like, I'm trying to build a rapport with a person, and I make it specific to them. I don't just say, ooh, like, nice shirt. I make it like, oh, like, I kind of want to get to know more, and I don't just do it just to do it. And that shit, last time I gave a compliment was last night playing soccer. We had some new players playing with us, and you can tell when they're being shy or being a little bit reserved in the way they're playing. So when you give compliments like, oh, nice pass, nice shot, nice run, you kind of build up their confidence more, and they start playing more and they start getting more incorporated. So it's a good way of making them feel welcome. Those are my 2 cents.
Very nice. Thank you, Khaled.
Can I share a little bit of a different experience?
For sure.
So I'm actually thinking of compliments a little bit differently than I'm thinking of positive feedback. And Claude, I really liked what you said about making it specific to them and making it a little bit deeper. But I actually also try to be the type of person that will give someone random, wow, I really love your outfit today, or you look really great, or you have beautiful hair, or just something really, it could be superficial to somebody that I completely don't know, that I just run into at a place. And I love seeing their reaction. I feel like even though you don't know that person, you've had one small interaction with them and you may never interact with them again, it seems to brighten their entire day. So I think that's really important too.
Yeah, that's awesome, Crystal. We'll also go into a little bit about that of how to actually give someone, a compliment and the differences that might be needed for the workplace versus just out in the real world. Does anyone else have a story? It could also be positive feedback as well. If you've given somebody that in the workplace or in your job or, anything like that.
Maybe I'll just add something that when this topic came up, when we were invited to sign up, I started to become more aware of it, right? More aware of when I was saying, I have one person that works with me, for me, and I want to make sure I don't lose her ever. She's changed my life. So I do make sure that at least, we interact once a day online. I don't know her in person. She's a virtual office manager for me. But I just make sure that she knows that since she came on, I'm now able to focus on the work that people pay me to do, and what a difference that has made. And I'm always surprised when she is surprised or happy. To me, it's so obvious. And it's just good practice to remember that it's not obvious to people. Both we like to hear it because it's not obvious to us, and it's good for others as well because it may not be obvious to them.
Yeah, I love that. And do you feel like positive recognition of someone who works for you is important to having them stay on with you?
Absolutely. I think it's part of reminding both of us that we're a team, right? That she's not just a helper that could be replaced anytime, but that this is somebody who we're doing this together. And when we accomplish something, I always say we, right? When something good happened, I say, we made this happen, not I made this happen and you kind of came along.
That's great. Yeah. Thank you so much, Julia. And Kaylee, would you mind kicking us off for our first poll?
Of course.
Thank you. So when was the last time you received positive recognition in the workplace? And when was the last time you gave positive recognition in the workplace? So I can give a bit of a story as well. It's kind of funny because it could be perceived in a couple different ways, I suppose. But in finance, as Marcus probably knows, and Khaled, that positive recognition and compliments are, it's a very stoic industry, I suppose. And so when you get a compliment, it's usually pretty good, or it's maybe it's an interesting way to give a compliment. But I was told that one of the gifts I have is that you never take no for an answer, and it doesn't affect you. So to me, in a sales world, that's a great compliment, I suppose. And I appreciated it, at least, even though it could be perceived as kind of a negative, I think, sometimes, I guess, in the real world. So does anybody have any other stories of the last time they received positive recognition or gave a compliment or got a compliment?
So I'll talk about onboarding. We had 3, and we have one right here, Connor. We have 3 amazing interns this semester from Syracuse University who are working with the DLE and also Dulye and Company. And I love to do, Connor, you got one last Saturday. I love to do surprise texts to them when Connor happens to do our social media. And to me, when you're onboarding, giving them a boost or appreciation of something that they've done, number one, I think it helps them feel the culture of a very remote, disparate organization. I mean, we have people who are in multiple locations. So just like all your organizations. So building the culture through appreciation, I think, is an important factor now, probably more than ever. The other thing is just letting them know this is how we do things without really having to say this is how we do things. You're doing a great job. Those words of encouragement, letting them see that you're making a difference. And I think it's even harder with interns because they really need to know you have the power to take action here, and we want you to do this. So appreciation has been a way of helping us onboard them.
Do you feel as if though it affects their performance at all with you?
Totally. Yeah, it does. I think it keeps enthusiasm going, a connection going more than ever. That's number one, is a connection. We happened to have the privilege of meeting Marcus and I, our interns, 2 weeks ago. It was wonderful, but that's rare these days. So it does create a connection, and that connection is an essence of making you feel good, whether it's with an employer or in this case, an internship.
For sure. Very cool. Yeah, Khaled, do you want to go?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to add to that. Nice look, Jonathan. No, and it's true what Linda's saying, because like when I know back years ago when I was younger in the internship in DC, I was really nervous in what I was doing. I wasn't sure. Like, obviously, I knew what I was learning in college was helping me out in that internship. But it was great I had a great mentor that she always gave me positive reinforcement. She gave me feedback, whether it was good or bad, but she did it in a way that it was nice and supportive. And it really builds up your confidence. And even now, like I still love hearing that, because I'm a guy that always like doubts myself sometimes. No, sometimes with with what I'm doing in my job, just because it's the nature of it. But like, it's good to get that reinforcement. It's like, okay, we're on the same page. Should you like what I'm doing? And in a way that builds more rapport.
That's awesome. And then Christian, I think I saw you raise your hand.
Yeah, I was gonna add that I think compliments even help you as the person giving the compliment, because being able to acknowledge something that your coworker or your boss or anyone in the work field with you is doing allows you to be more grateful for them. And I think that gratitude is really important, because sometimes things may not be going the way that you want it to in the work field, but when you're able to have that confidence in the people who you're working with, it really does help boost the effectiveness of your team.
Has that happened to you personally? Do you have any experiences to share?
I would say, yeah, for sure. I'm not like in the work field, but like even like working with my peers, like I realize like things may not be going the way that I want it to. Or I may see like, I may start to notice more so like what the person's doing incorrectly instead of what they're doing right. And when I sort of acknowledge like, oh, okay, they've actually been doing this, they've helped me in this way, it really does help me to see like, okay, maybe things aren't as bad as they seem, and I can have that confidence in them.
For sure. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing, Christian. I appreciate it. So that we've kind of already gone into this, but have you ever witnessed firsthand the impacts of giving a compliment on a friend or colleague's performance? Have you ever seen that, I guess, maybe from a third person view of someone who got congratulated for their work or something like that, and their performance was affected by it?
I was just going to say my work does something really cool. My name's Kaylee. I work for an IT managed service provider, CompuWorks, here in Pittsfield. And they do something really cool. It's called The Wizard, and it's just kind of a fun, like, employee of the month almost. And we have this like wizard beard and hat, and each month someone gets like announced as that month's wizard, and they get $100 bonus that month. And then they actually get to pick the next wizard. So it's not management picking, it's like your colleagues and coworkers, and it passes around. And there always has to be a reason why you're choosing that person. So it's like even just one little thing that could stand out. And it's just like a really cool thing. Like when you get it, even though it's silly and like not a ton of money, but it's just like nice to be recognized for something you did right. And like it changes your whole attitude going into the new month of like, it like rejuvenates you to just want to do better. And you're like watching for other people to do good things because you have to pick the next one. So it's just fun.
That is fun. I have a similar story too, but Marcus, you want to go? You won't? Okay. So we at Datadog, when I used to work there in sales, we used to have each team, we used to be broken up into teams. And we used to give, each team had like an award, I guess. So we were the chefs. So we have basically like, you know, those chefs you see at kind of like pizza places or like the little like, you know, gnome kind of thing. So every time you get top salesman of the week, you know, you'd get the top chef award and you would put that on your desk and you would proudly display it like a trophy. And it kind of really actually does impact your performance. I can say firsthand, it motivates you to, you know, people see you and upper management even sees that you're the guy. And we've had people who have won it 4 times, you know, in a row. So that's 4 weeks in a row and people take notice. And I think it really does affect performance and it kind of escalates people to want to be a leader and kind of step up. So I've definitely seen that firsthand. Any other stories?
We have something similar at General Dynamics. If you have, generally, I think the culture in the organization I'm a part of, which is information technology like Kaylee, we have a very positive culture. I mean, yesterday I was on a call with my colleague and she goes, I've been working so hard on these things and can you help me with all of this stuff? I said, absolutely. You know, you've taken this on. And I gave her this great compliment about, you know, how hard she's been working and she's been doing a phenomenal job. And then when you have people like that who go above and beyond, then we have like a formal recognition called a Mission Excellence Award. And that's something that any employee can put in and say, you know, I thought that Bridget did such a great job on this, and here's the reasons why. And it goes up to 2 levels above for management to give her the recognition. And it typically comes with a monetary bonus and a certificate award that you can print out and put on your desk. And sometimes they're also like displayed in the intranet to let people know that you got them. So it's a really great way to recognize our employees for doing a good job.
Do you feel like it motivates them? Have you seen an effect on their performance?
Yeah, it definitely does. I mean, I think it depends. Some people, because there's the monetary value, it can be tough. I think the monetary value starts at 200 and it goes up to 5,000. So there is quite a bit of swing there. So, you know, depending on your level of effort, you can certainly get a really nice bonus out of it. So that makes people feel really great.
That's awesome.
I had the pleasure of giving one of those Mission Excellence Awards to one of the employees that works with me just this week. And so the employee that I happen to give it to is someone who doesn't really like public recognition. But I had a private meeting with just me and her where I said, hey, do you have a few minutes to chat? And I brought up the certificate for her on the screen. And she was just so surprised and thankful, but really had gone above and beyond. So it makes a huge difference.
That's a good, interesting point, Crystal. Public versus private recognition. Some people might be uncomfortable with that public recognition. It's good. I don't really have a follow-up to that, but that's a good point. Thank you. Another question that we have is how do you know that a compliment is sincere? And what are the facets that make it a really authentic compliment, ones that I guess are not, you know, just manufactured to make you feel good, but that feel as if they come from the heart. So what makes a compliment seem like that?
So I can take that. I think it comes with timing and tone. So I'll give an example. Say you had a review with your manager or someone of your teammates, and you mentioned, hey, this is something I'm working on, but I don't feel like I'm getting acknowledged. Then the next week, they give you a compliment regarding that. You know, that's not genuine. And also the tone in which they give it. A lot of times, just like sarcasm, you can tell when someone's authentic just in their tone, and it gives it away. That's just my 2 examples of that.
Yeah, those are good thoughts, Marcus. Thank you.
I have a thought. Kevin from One Berkshire here in Pittsfield. I think Marcus makes a really good point about timing and tone. I think specificity also really important to speaks to sincerity. And And I also just wanted to add that I think all of this is more important in an environment where so many people are working remotely. The General Dynamics example is a great one. It can be much harder to feel like a compliment is sincere in a virtual environment. So to really go the extra mile, to show somebody that yes, you appreciate their contribution, is absolutely key.
Yeah, most definitely. How do you personally do that, Kevin?
So yeah, something like the certificates is maybe that's a little bit of a larger organization sort of thing. One Berkshire is much smaller, so we'll have kind of like Crystal mentioned, sort of these a one-on-one meeting with someone where you just, even if it's just a few minutes, to say, hey, I really appreciated this very specific thing. It's really been helpful. I think another thing that is helpful in coming across as sincere is if it's something that someone's been working on for a while and maybe they've been struggling with, and you've sort of experienced elements of that struggle, you've been around for the hard times versus just when there's success and praise to be handed out. I think that makes it seem much more sincere and grounded.
Thank you. And Alyssa, did you have a story?
I think Kevin said what sort of, but I was thinking of the flip side, like how as a person when it's how it feels, and when it's, so I think what he said about it being specific is helpful, because you have to see yourself in that compliment. If someone tells you that you did something that you don't feel like it was you, or it's really not like you, then it doesn't feel like a compliment. So that's where being specific really helps.
Do you ever feel as if though they might know something that you don't know, or they saw something that you didn't see?
Or it doesn't feel genuine, like they were just trying to come up with something and it's fake. So kind of the way a used car salesman might make you feel with a compliment, rather than someone who actually knows you.
True.
I think this is also a scenario where, regardless of what the intent is, the recipient's view of it matters. So even if, as you said, John, the intent is, yes, I mean to compliment this person, if that doesn't land for the person receiving it, it is what it is in that scenario.
Yeah, sometimes sometimes we could be coming from a genuine place, but it just doesn't land. Of course, yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. Perception is reality.
It is, yeah. So Kaylee, if we want to do the next live poll, how is going remote affected recognition in your workplace, if you don't mind?
I would also suggest, if anyone wants to elaborate on their yes or no, to put it in the chat, because we do save these and it'd be nice to just have a little context around this poll.
Yeah, would anybody care to share if you elaborate a little bit more, if that's been a yes or no for you?
Hi, this is Heather. I work at General Dynamics with Danielle and Crystal and Ted and a few other people I see. So being remote, I think, makes it much harder to have that in-person communication and the nonverbal dialogue that happens. And in not being in the same location, it makes it harder to have for managers to be able to, not even just managers, but other people in the workspace to be able to see what you're doing, or to be able to collaborate and be able to get those ideas and grow from those things, to be able to appreciate what people are doing and have that sense of acknowledgement and recognition when you're not all physically together. I think it's much harder because you're not physically next to each other.
Yeah, most
I
definitely.
think it's almost impossible unless you're physically producing a work product to even begin to do that.
So how would you do that then, Heather?
And the only way, I'm in a very precarious position myself. So, I think the higher up you go, the harder it is to do that. But right now, I'm kind of on a, excuse me, I'm losing my voice. I'm kind of on an island on my own now. So for me getting recognized or complimented comes from not my management or my peers, it comes from my friends in the workplace. So it's a very different kind of experience than, getting recognition for my work, which doesn't really happen because I don't sit with my team. I'm not near my manager. I'm not near my management chain, and I'm in my current role, I don't really produce anything. I'm more of like, so it's not the same environment.
Yeah.
So I really don't actually know how to answer that question.
No worries. It was just a question. Has anyone given or received compliments over email? Yes.
I do that all the time.
And so you give the compliments, Heather?
Oh yeah.
And so how do you strive to make it feel genuine, or how do you go about it?
I'm always genuine in what I say. People know that about me.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to come off like
that. People who know me know that I'm a truth teller. I don't BS. What I say is what I say, and sometimes I'm very blunt about it, and they may not like what I say, but I always tell the truth. And if I compliment you, and I mean it, and I always try to be supportive, especially of other women in the workplace, because I know it can be really hard. I've been there. I've been doing it for a very long time. I always try to boost people. I always try to help or say a kind thing when I see someone struggling. I go out of my way to make sure that people are okay, because I know what it's like and I've been there, and I don't like to see people suffer. That's cruel. So
yeah.
Can I add to that real quick? Because I think Heather brought up a good point, and I think this conversation, what I'm hearing, at least the past 5 minutes, was more like how people receive the compliments. And with the remote work is harder. It definitely is harder because you don't have the water cooler talk or pass down the hall kind of thing, where the body language tells you a lot about a person and what their day is going like and everything. And what I found, it's how you're delivering that compliment to somebody is really important. So whenever I haven't given one through email, I like to just call them and tell them in person or do a video chat. I prefer that more over email, because I feel like, at least virtually, that does help more of creating some kind of more of a personal connection, as opposed to just like in email, hey, great job. It's like, okay, well, yeah, I did work hard. Thank you for the recognition. But I think the step further is the compliment piece after you recognize them. And it's important for that phone call or that video chat or however you want to do it for it to happen, at least in my point of view.
Yeah, I love that. It's a great way to make it feel more personable, definitely with your voice. Alyssa, you had a story?
Yeah, I think remote has been really challenging for a lot of people and this not running into each other for that more random interaction, I think has really impacted a lot of people's mental health. So, you may have had a tough conversation with your boss and you didn't go back down the hall past somebody who gave you a compliment, or who like you were saying, Khaled, talking about the body language, saying, oh, she just had a rough conversation, let me say something positive. And I think the lack of that, it kind of piles onto people and makes them, it's really hard. So I really appreciate that people are taking explicit action to do those compliments, realizing that, that kind of like not running into people impacted my mental health during, and it's really challenging.
Alyssa, I'd love to add on that. So some of my peers, Heather and I meet twice a week just to catch up because we used to sit a couple feet away from each other. But we noticed that too, right? Like, oh, you know, I'm about to head into a big meeting, and instead of it being in person, we've been IMing each other. I'm just about to go into this meeting and I'd love some words of encouragement. And then, you know, we kind of remember, oh, 5 minutes ago, Heather just got out of this thing. And so we'll IM each other. And it is a little bit more intentional, and that can be a little tough, but we've certainly been able to connect that way. And I have several colleagues where the IMs have become a little bit more informal because we don't have that ability to just walk over. Like Crystal and I used to see each other every day. So now I am every once in a while and make sure that, you know, we're good too. But it's definitely a different world, but and that's the hard part is you have to approach it with more intention.
For sure.
And Yael, to your same point, my team uses Teams and we communicate a lot over Teams. So we have, you know, channels in there that's very professional and very targeted to certain things going on in the business or certain teams. And then we also have like informal chats going on where it's like my whole like level 1 technician team. And it's called Service Desk for Memes. And we're literally just like throwing funny pictures or like putting in comments and interesting articles because you don't have that office banter. You can't just turn around and see someone. So we want to try and replicate that. Something else we do is we have a board called Bravos, and every time someone gets a customer compliment, I post it in there so the whole company can see, because that's like the ultimate level of standard, right? It's not your coworker or your boss, it's someone that you interacted with and in your job, and it's the customers complimenting them. So I want to make sure everyone sees that, and it just makes you feel good when your name's on that board.
Kaylee, that's so great. I absolutely love that idea. And it makes me want to do that for even just my individual teams, right? We hold, we created a playbook. I don't know if this is something some of your teams have done, but every time we accomplish something, we put it in the playbook. So not only is it like letting our team know what we've gotten done, but then it can certainly help us going forward. We're a user experience team. That's certainly not like the first thing people think about. So we're really trying to show our value, but it also works out really well. It's like, okay, look, you know, my teammates just did all these things, and so they get recognized for it too. But I absolutely love the idea of that that board. I'm going to try to, you know, put it in place.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great story, Kaylee. Thank you. Does anyone have any last stories about that? I'm curious if anybody's ever received a compliment over email, how it might affect you differently than if it was in person. If anybody has a story about that.
I don't think I have anything. Oh, sorry. Do you want to go ahead, Alyssa?
It's okay. Pre-COVID, I worked at a big organization, and my boss sent me an email with an image of a gold star to say I did good work. And it was kind of cheesy, but it made me feel really good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get an email where, you know, someone says it's after a long chain of things, and you get an email that says, you know, thank you for doing X, Y, and Z. And it just, while they're trying to compliment you, it seems so wrong and disconnected and too little too late. And I almost wish they didn't send it at all. So it could have the total opposite effect depending on the context.
So it backfires.
Yeah.
You know, and that does happen. I mean, a lot, I think too. And that's why I do prefer the phone call or the video chat, because sometimes the other person could read it differently. And like, even though you had the best intentions, maybe the way you word it and you forgot a comma or something, like grammar mistake, that could change the entire meaning of that compliment. And I think it's really hard, especially in corporate email, to share that tone, of appreciation and as opposed to a phone call. And Because email, I don't, whenever I like I do write it, sometimes I say, hey, thank you very much for your help. And then I call them and say, hey, I know you worked hard. So I add on to that. I never just leave it an email.
Yeah. I mean, even though they could be sincere, like you can hear the sincerity in the email.
Yeah.
It's the how they got to that point when they do tell you thank you.
Yep.
You know, it's
hard. It's harder, I think, in via
Yeah.
email. It is. I mean, unless you're an amazing writer, like I'm jealous. Teach me.
no, I'm not.
But other than that, it's tough.
Yeah. I mean, from a sender, you know, if I'm saying thank you, I don't do it in email. I am the person, or video chat them, or make sure it's in a much more one-on-one kind of thing. I find email is never the right way to do that. So
I think it can really depend on the world too. So if we were talking 2 years ago about getting a compliment through an email, it would seem really just genuine, and you'd be like, well, they kind of like shoved me off. But now I feel like that's how we're interacting anyways. So it totally changed, because if I got an email
Sure.
2 years ago that said thank you, I'd be like, well, you couldn't walk down the hallway and tell me in person. But I wouldn't have that reaction now.
I guess it depends on the context too. So
Right. I think the context piece is pretty key. If I'm getting an email that just says thank you from a coworker, that's, is what it is. But hearing a compliment, or that someone is really thankful for your work from a client, from the customer side, I think the bar is lower for me to actually appreciate that compliment, because in many cases, that's the interaction you're like. If I'm working with somebody in Minnesota or something, they're probably not going to call me. But they might send an email that says, boy, I really appreciate, the speed at which you handled this, or your attention to detail, or something like that. That to me, that still gets there, even if it's just an email.
Nice. Yeah. I think it's interesting, and I know Linda and we've talked about this, but what you actually say is such a small part in the everyday world of how it's perceived. It's usually the body language you give off, and it's the tone. And I think the tone, especially for Khaled, is what you're trying to go after there. And if someone just says, "Oh, thank you," right? But if someone says, I just want to say thank you so much," right? It's the way they say it, the tone of voice. Well, one sentence could be perceived, 10 different ways with accenting different words. And I think it's important to keep that in mind. And it's why I think we're all experiencing that in person, or probably out of work, is affecting us much more in giving and receiving those compliments than in person would. And I think it's important to keep in mind to trying to give as many in-person compliments as we can now, and beforehand as well. But transitioning a little bit, does recognition with a live poll, Kaylee, does recognition affect your decision to stay with the company at all? And I would love to hear anyone's stories or thoughts on that as well. So for the people who said no, I'm curious to hear as to why.
So this is Ted DePietro. I work at General Dynamics with Danielle and Heather and Crystal. I think everyone. I would say no, because it takes more than just compliments to your staff. I think it takes the commitment to recognize them for their performance and award them in their pay for the level of effort they commit to. So it's only one part in the whole process of retaining employees with an organization. And something like General Dynamics, we could sit there and give an employee compliments all day long and appreciate the level of effort they commit to. But I think it's a little more in depth than my decision to stay with the company. I think that it plays into it as a big part, and being recognized for my effort. But it wouldn't change my wanting to stay with the current company, especially if I found a better opportunity to work for a different organization. And that's kind of what I'm seeing in the technical field right now, is that there's a lot of people that come in out of college that think it's great to work in an engineering or an IT role, and 2 days later they get an opportunity to go work at Amazon or Microsoft, and they're out the door. regardless of the compliments that they've received.
So what do you think lures them out the door then, Ted?
Usually money.
Money.
And
So
for Pittsfield, it's the limitation of entertainment activities compared to living in a big city.
yeah. So
Yeah, I agree
yeah,
with
Marcus.
you. Yeah, I'm like almost like a follower of Ray Dalio, and I share this point with Linda all the time. And Ray Dalio really stresses this in his book as a business owner, that words, tokens of appreciation, even giving people days off, the only way you show someone that you appreciate them in a work setting is via money. And that's the only way you keep talent. And the business owners that do that well, they keep talent. The business owners that don't do that, you see a high turnover rate, because I mean that's in this type of relationship. It's not like a family relationship where you don't want to base a family relationship off of money. But in a corporate or a work environment, the only love language is money.
Right.
I actually disagree. I'm not necessarily in this point of my career motivated by money. I'm more motivated by knowing that I contribute and I'm making a difference. So I think it depends at the point of the career you're in and how long you've been with a company. So I think that can really change depending on where you are in your life, in your path. So
Yeah.
I do agree that when you're early in your career, money is a big deal.
Yeah,
But
I'm sorry. No, that's good thoughts, Heather. Julia, did you have a story?
Yeah, it's just, to me, it's so interesting. I think it really depends on what field you are. If money was the issue, nobody would be in education, which is where I came from. And if the money is not there, the only way really for you to stick around is to know that you're making a difference in the kids' lives, in the organization's lives. So it seems to me that in a different field, such as education, compliments sounds like it plays a bigger role than it feels like finance.
Mhm.
Yeah, Marcus and I are young guys trying to get it. So the money is an important aspect.
Well, I think there's like a talk. Is it Dan Pink? And you guys can totally tell me if I'm wrong, but they talk about motivation in the sense of like, if you give somebody an incentive of, okay, if you meet this thing, you'll get $5,000, or if you just ask them to do something, they're more motivated to do it if you just ask them in a positive way than they are by the money. But they've actually, because it's really interesting, Marcus, you mentioned like money is a concept, and it is. And they said if you give somebody the right amount of money for their effort, where they're paid fairly, they're still motivated to continue. But if you don't pay them enough, then they're not motivated, right? So you have to find that like sweet spot of where it matters to them, and then at some point money doesn't matter because they're comfortable, or they're paying their bills, or they're feeling good about the amount of money that they are making.
Yeah, and also, I mean, I agree with you, Danielle, and also Heather. I mean, I come from a sports background, and Christian, he's on here, he's in high school. Coaches can give you compliments all the time about how you're a big component of the team and how you really help us win championships. But at the end of the day, you're working hard for more playing time. And if you're not going to get playing time there, I mean, I don't know, maybe because I come from a competitive environment, you go somewhere where you're going to get more playing time. And that's how it is for me in corporate America. Like, all I care about in our relationship is money. And then my results, how I produce. I make you money because what I produce for you, then I need to make money for that.
Yeah, I agree with that, Marcus.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna add to that because I mean, I guess we are still in a very similar industry, if not the same one, and the motivation there is different. But to keep it to the compliment question, I think Theodore had it right in the nose. Like, you know, compliments are good, recognition is good, and I was actually in a position before mine current one where being recognized was good, but then I stopped being recognized the way I wanted to be recognized, which prompted me to move forward. So it's also how you kind of perceive and how you want to be seen by the company. And like Marcus said, sometimes it is money or because of the industry you're in, sometimes it's, you know, your calling, but it adds in all these different dimensions and perspectives where it's like, okay, well, where are you in life? Are you comfortable with what you're making or not? Can you pay all your bills? Like reality will always be there. So I do think that compliments do go a long way, and being recognized by the company also helps a lot. But it depends on the individual's current situation and how they feel and how they receive that recognition and compliments to decide to stay or to go from a company.
Yeah, totally agree with that. I think everybody has a different way of you know, of how they like to receive it, either that's monetary compensation with little compliments and affirmations, I suppose, or a lot of affirmations and compliments and don't care much about the money. But Alyssa, yeah.
I think to that point, if you've ever read that book, The 5 Love Languages or The 4 Love Languages, it's the same thing. We're apt to give and want to receive compliments in different ways based on our personalities. So for my team, I ask a number of questions when they start. How do you like to learn? But also, how do you like to be recognized? Because like, I love Atta girls. I don't know why, but I just do. But that doesn't mean that somebody else wants that. They may feel really uncomfortable when they get that, or they want the card or the flowers once in a while, or they want the raise or whatever it is. But you need to ask that and make sure that you're matching that if you want that person to stay with you. And you need to express that to your supervisors and people around you, so you're getting the feedback that you need to be motivated. And it's all about that level of communication.
Yeah, you said a great thing there, and it really, and Linda, I think we've talked about this as well, and this goes for all business owners and managers out there. It is one of your jobs to understand how your people operate. And it is up to you to really make or break that relationship and how they perceive you and how they perceive the workplace. So, sometimes we have to just take accountability. And if somebody leaves, hey, maybe that was on me. Maybe I didn't give the best experience to them, and I didn't know how they operated and how they work. So, listen, that's a great story. And we're kind of closing off right here, but Linda, I want to go to you first.
Yeah, so I'm a consultant, and I feel I don't get lots of compliments because the consulting, you have to get used to being really proud of your work, and it's a rare client, I will say, who really publicly recognizes you. I do have one. He happens to be the engineering leader at General Dynamics, Tom Lucier. And the power of appreciation that he gives me is introductions. He introduces and opens a network to me that is just voluminous, and he will do so by telling in his first minute the great work that I'm doing with his organization. And that is priceless. And I think looking at the dollar value, if you have a consultancy, of getting an introduction and someone's recommendation can't be measured. So I look at him as he's probably my best marketing person, and he doesn't work for me. So I am eternally grateful for a client that publicly will recognize me, not just writing me a check and saying, thanks for your work, Linda.
That's because you do a good job, Linda.
I'm passionate about, I love what I do. I feel so lucky in life. I love what I do. And being able to say that is a reward.
Linda, if you go to, that's referrals is quantifiable in finance world. That is a form of a business transaction. Just saying.
I know. I mean, whether or not business comes out of it, would I love it? Sure. But for me, it's just, gosh, having someone say this about my work, that's a gift.
Yeah. And, I think with the accountability part as well as employees, as workers, as business owners, our job, and as people, and as, you know, friends, family, whatever, we are here to hopefully do the best job we can. And if you're expecting, and, you know, compliments and affirmations and things like that, and you're not doing a good job, then what are you expecting it for, right? So you have to be somewhat realistic, and you have to always put your best foot forward, I think. And naturally, if you give and you act in the best way possible, and you really put your best foot forward, I think, you know, you should and you deserve compliments. And if you feel like you're not getting that, then maybe you should either talk with your manager. Don't just quit, I feel like, but talk with them and talk with the people around you and see what you can do to either improve or say that, you know, that's how I would like to receive or give those. So thank you, everybody. We're kind of coming up to that 8 a.m. mark. I want to say thank you so much for this great conversation. It was great to hear all of your voices again. It's been a couple months, and it's been kind of an interesting summer. I feel like it really wasn't a true summer. It was a little bit cold, but I'm happy we're kind of transitioning out of this you know, pandemic world just a little bit. I know some of us are a little bit hampered down still, but it's great to see everybody in high spirits, and all these stories were great. And I hope you all learned something from this. I know even I did. Whether it's little workplace hacks you can get to motivate people, or, you know, give those compliments, whether it's the how to be genuine a little bit. I know we're supposed to go into how to you know, give compliments, but make sure they're professional, and we're not just going off of appearance, right? We're going, you know, more so for probably personality and work. But doesn't mean that, you know, parents can't be complimented, just have to be a little bit careful. But thank you all for all your stories. I really appreciated it. And if anybody has any last words, and that'd be great.
I have one last comment. It's also going to be about Tom Moose here. But so again, as a consultant, I kind of feel like a lawyer. If I'm going to get an hour of your time, I got to be very prepared on what I'm going to be talking. I have a list, and we don't lose any time. So that's me. I'm very used to that. So I had to get used to a different style with Tom, because his first question with me is, "So how you doing?" And I'm like, "Fine." So what I wanted to go over today, no, and he goes, and they'll stop me and go, "No. I want to know how you are doing today. What's happening in your world?" That is a rare thing, because he actually is interested in my well-being. And then takes a minute, and then we can go into business. But I had to adjust my style to be able to be open to what in essence is a compliment, an interest in me. So I just wanted to share that story, and hopefully everybody thinks about that today when you have a conversation, and before you get into the meat of the conversation. Or for me, I'm a vegetarian, the carrot of the conversation. You say, so, you know, so really, I want to know, how are you doing today?